What's up, Rockstars? Today I have a huge video for you guys. I got a ton of announcements, a ton of first looks at some really cool games. We got some IP games coming out here. We got stuff on GameFound. We got the next big thing from Awakened Realms. We got it all here. This is a big one. Plus I have an exclusive look at Harakiri later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. Alright, now before I spoil anything more, let's just go ahead and just dive right in. Now, as always, a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their financial support that this channel is possible. That's because this channel is community driven. I not only just make videos for you guys so that you guys can be more informed consumers out there as you go about looking for what to buy and where to put your hard-earned money, but I take no money from any game developer either. Normally I point to games, but I'm actually getting another house, and part of the reason for that is actually for this board game thing, this channel thing and all that. It needs more space. It needs more dedication. I am in this for the long run, and so are my patrons and YouTube members. They are fantastic people. If you can give to that, link down below, of course. If not, that's fine. Just a simple like or a comment on your way out saying thanks for the video, it helped me out, or anything like that truly does help, because first of all, the algorithm loves it, and second of all, I love it. I love hearing that my videos are helpful for you guys. It makes it all worthwhile. Now, hopefully this is coming out okay. I'm saying a little bit quieter, and I feel pretty okay, but I'm a little tired. It is literally 1:03 a.m. right now, so please forgive me on that, but you guys know how I roll here. So right now we're making a video. So we're going to start out with what is on Kickstarter and what's available right now, and then kind of what's coming up, and then some kind of news stuff as well. Okay, so that's kind of the order we're going to go in. So first of all, Fall of the Mountain King. I failed to mention this last time. This is by Burnt Island Games. This is actually kind of like a sequel to the previous one that they had. Now, one of the first things I look at is anytime you have a sequel or a reprinting or 1.5 or anything like that, look at the backers, right? And keep track of how many days there are too, right? But then you actually go in here and you go and you look at what else they've done, and you see, okay, so the first one they had about 4,393 backers, not including pledge manager and all that kind of stuff, right? So they had about 4,300, and right now they are at 2,700. Then you have to decide, and I don't have the data points in this on how good of an adoption rate is that. You can also look sometimes at what they're offering and see how many new people there are versus returning people there are. Anytime you see returning people that are like, hey, I got this game, I played this game, and I want more because it's great, that's always a good sign. It always just helps to reinforce how I feel about it. Not necessarily a decision-making, note, but it is something to note, right? It's something just to kind of be aware of. That's always what I kind of look at and kind of tell. Their video does a great job of kind of showing off the game and kind of generalizing what it's all about. Essentially, you are being invaded by gnomes, which everybody knows gnomes are evil. So they're like invading into there, and then you're having to play these cards, or I don't know what you call them. I guess they're cards. And then as you attach different symbols and do stuff like that, and then you place your resources on there, and that allows you to do these different actions, and you're busy fighting with each other, you're busy holding territory to gain different stuff, and you're fighting off the gnome invasion. There's like 3 waves. Meanwhile, you're tracking your score on various parts there, and it looks like plenty fun to me, actually. From what I can tell, I would have fun playing this. It's not something I'm going to back. Mainly because I would like it doesn't mean it would work great for my gaming group. Whenever you're looking at this kind of stuff, most of the people I feel, like me, that are the ones buying the games are really into board games. And so if you're like me, you might like more games than your gaming group. It's always important to figure out not only what you'll love to have on your shelf, but what will actually make it to the table. And that's different for every person's situation. So just something to keep in mind. It saved me a lot of money throughout this whole thing. Not that I've saved a lot of money overall. I've spent a ton, hence the massive amount of shelves everywhere. But It's really important, right? That just because I think a game looks good doesn't mean that it's actually going to get to the table. The group has to think it's good and be willing to play it over other stuff. And so you kind of have to think about what you have in your, as a group to actually play it logistically, and also what other options are there. And then just kind of back it based off that. Unless you're doing the whole collector thing, there's nothing wrong with that. You guys spend your money however you want. There's a lot of worse things you could spend your money on than a board game. Trust me on that. So if you want to collect board games and just unbox them and admire them and pretend that you'll play them someday, that's fine too. Totally. I'm guilty of it myself. Moving on. Cyber Odyssey. Red Joker relaunched Cyber Odyssey for Cyber Odyssey. They called it Reloaded, but they didn't really end up naming it. Anyway, it's funded. I know, funded and already one stretch goal down. They're almost to a second one. They're at 54,000. At 55,000, they unlock, it looks like, some more, cards and stuff like that. It looks like items is what those are. So you can like equip different stuff, maybe new weapons or whatever. And then at another 60, we unlock more, enemy types or whatever. This is Marauders and includes the 5 miniatures. I don't know what this will be exactly, but just more minis and cards to interact with and deal with. So, they're definitely, I think that's awesome. I think it's great. Really, I do. They did a good job, revamping, not only the Kickstarter, they have their pledge manager in English, that helps. But the map is different. The layout's different. They have the expansion stuff, already, kind of shown. So they have like the solo mode right up front. So, right here, then they say, hey, you can back it here and then add whatever you want. Here's the solo mode. So they detail that. And then there's this Route 66 thing that has different enemies and also heroes, which is cool. Kind of a whole different section you can fight people in and stuff. And then on the Law and Order, where the police actually go and mess things up, and so it looks cool. It looks like they added a lot of stuff here. They're doing the stretch goals. They're explaining things well. So super excited with that. The minis design is freaking sweet. So there's that too. Just a cool cyberpunk-like game. Okay, moving on. We have Kingdom of Insects. Sorry if this triggers anyone. This is kind of funny. So I always make a joke. This is his Carl Rudick art or whatever. This is his first Kickstarter, but I've seen his name thrown around a lot. He's won some golden demons and some crystal brushes and various other things. He's definitely prolific and very good at what he does. These are stuff that he's been sculpting with, I think, some help from a few other people as well. They're unique. I'll put it that way. You can get busts, you can get big minis, you can get normal minis. They are STLs, but you can also get actually cast, like nice resin cast ones. You kind of see one there. So you can kind of see the size difference. It's funny because I always joke about the spiders with a chick torso on it. Typically called spider boobs. It's something that always is in video games and board games and whatever. I don't know what it is about it, but there's a certain group that dig it, I guess. I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. So there's stuff like this, which reminds me a little bit of Celestial in how they're humanoid shape, but also with insect growths and stuff like that and styles on them. It kind of reminds me of that. That's a big butt. That's really all there is to that. Some of these are just gross. I don't even like the 2-arm things. No, that's some of the praying mantis one's kind of cool. I dig those wings. There's a few others that heck, if I could paint it like that, but there's that. And the honeybee one, that'd be really cool painted, obviously. Though again, it looks like Alice in Wonderland kind of stuff there. The basing on this one, by the way, with the flowers, super, this would be a fun one to paint just because of that, to be honest. Though, again, the bust looks actually really cool too. I like that more than the mini, to be honest. Also gets rid of I don't know. There's some crazy stuff here, so feel free to look into it. But again, you can get the STLs just to print them out, or you can get the actual hand cast nice resin ones. I think there's a picture down here. Let me scroll super quick here for you guys. I'm going. All right, we're almost there. Aha, yeah, there we go. So they're using Micro Art Studio. I've seen some of their work before. It seems really good. So that's cool. They're from Poland, as we know. The Polish love board games and minis. They are the nerdiest group of people over there. I don't know why, but they are. Here's some masters for the bus, stuff like that. So definitely well on their way with the sculpting and printing and all that. So it looks pretty cool to me. I dig it. It's not something I'm going to get because it grosses me out a little bit, but it's there for people who dig it more than me. Okay, let's go ahead and start on some GameFound stuff. Masters of the Universe, Fields of Eternia. They actually have a page here now. Now, it says 40 days. It's July 27th. I don't know why. Like, one thing I would like GameFound to do is actually do, like, I get the countdown, but put what day that is, just so I know what day it is. It would help, I think. This is not the first time we've actually seen this image here. We've seen kind of the minis here and on. They did add a little blurb in their email, so if you will forgive me briefly, I will go ahead and read that to you. So, it says, collect victory points by defeating your foes, controlling areas, and completing quests. Play with your friends and family, or go for a solo expedition. I like all those words put together to form sentences and all that junk. Sounds nice to me. Playtime they put as 90 minutes. We'll see. I don't know. I feel like at 6 players it's probably going to be more than 90. But if it gets to 120, I'm not like upset about that. So I think a 2-hour board game is okay too. So hour and a half, 2 hour sounds good to me. Looks kind of fun. The one thing I did notice, and I'll be able to tell I'll be getting this early, by the way, guys, so I can show you guys at this and actually do a review. So I will be doing that for you guys. Right off the bat, I noticed how similar these poses are. And so I'm kind of cautious about that, and that both their arms are kind of raised up, and then both their other arm is kind of bent into the side, holding, they swapped a shield with this, and then the feet are kind of apart. Actually, kind of similarly, this one's a little bit ahead of this one by the looks of it. This one's his is more open and more there. But like from torso up, I feel like they're almost the same. The head's tilted a little bit. It's just really close. So I don't know. Now it could just be that that's what they chose to be iconic for them, because it feels kind of iconic for them. But something I'll keep an eye out for. You definitely want some visual variety there, right? Archon's normally good with that, so guess we'll see. But anyway, yeah, you can follow that now. By the way, this is now like they're starting to actually talk about this and show it off, so that's cool. Glad to see that. Now, before I move on and talk about some cool stuff with Skyrim, they had a whole update and some more stuff there, I want to thank my sponsor, Skillshare. Now, Skillshare is something that I use every single month. I subscribe to it every month. You guys know this. They've been a sponsor for a long time, and I think it's a very good match here. I'm going to be talking about something that I haven't shown before that they feature, and then also 2 things that I found interesting there. But before I do, just as a general kind of upfront thing, there's a link down below. The first 1,000 people can get their premium membership for free through that. So be sure to get that, because it is limited to 1,000. That is a hard limit. So I know this for a fact. Definitely you want to get in on that if you can. Highly recommended. There's a ton of stuff on here. And then even once that expires and you then have to actually pay for it, it's less than $10 a month if you actually, go and subscribe for, longer periods of time or whatever. But seriously, that's really cheap. You don't go to McDonald's once and you've actually saved money. So, like, seriously, it's a good deal. It really is. I've been impressed. This is really cool. So they do these kind of workshops sometimes where they group things together and put little plans and like what time. This is a very basic one. This is just 2 classes that you need to be doing it by so and so amount of time or whatever. That kind of flow well together by different creators and all that kind of stuff. I think it's really great. It just gives you a little bit more oomph than even just a single class, and helps motivate you as well. This first one was super cool. I'm still working on it. I started watching these earlier today when I noticed these, and because I don't always look at their workshops, but I'm glad I did here because these are really good. Here he talks about perfect is the enemy of good, and I thought that was a great idea. He talks about how instead of just trying to get your perfect video out, let's say you're doing a YouTube thing, your perfect video out, and this is the second video you've ever done, that you can't possibly do that. Perfect is a myth, because after 100 videos of you doing it, you're going to be capable of so much more. You've learned a lot of lessons. So even your perfect at 2 wasn't anywhere close to as good as your 100. And so you just need to get stuff out, actually do good work, and that builds towards perfection, not the other way around. So I thought that was very smart. Additionally, I have Ali over here. I've covered him before. He's amazing. He's talking about productivity for creators. That's really any kind of side hustle thing is kind of what he's talking about here. Talks about a side hustle and how you can do that, and talks about monetizing and all that. But just being successful at it, right? And he talks about two, I think, really cool things. First of all is just how to stay organized. And he recommends a calendar. And I have a calendar for work, but I don't have a calendar for my life. And I'm going to start that a little bit. You know, it doesn't have to be anything super strict or anything like that, but I think it'd be great just to actually schedule time and then kind of check on that and be like, okay, I'm going to do this for this amount of time. He also talks about being able to reward yourself even if you're not motivated, because motivation is just doing stuff that you feel like doing. But as adults, we can have discipline too. For instance, you don't always feel like going to work, but you go to work, you're disciplined. Or you don't always feel like brushing your teeth, but you're going to brush your teeth, right? We learn these things, we can do these things. But making it, that reward more short term is good. So for instance, you could have your favorite drink. Maybe you enjoy tea, so make some tea before I sit down and do YouTube or something like that. I'm going to think about what I could do with that. I think that's a great idea. So anyway, between both those, there are so many life lessons I can learn here. I can apply this towards YouTube. I can apply this towards actually packing up. If you notice, this has not moved. I have not done this, so I need to figure out what motivates me. I need to figure out how to do this. I need to schedule in some time to actually pack up this stuff and stage this house for sale and do all that kind of stuff. So anyway, if you are interested, again, there is a link down below. First 1,000 people, free premium membership. That's awesome. And then, of course, once you do start paying for it, less than $10 a month. Highly recommended. There's always a ton of good stuff here. Really, really enjoy it. Use it every single month. And really happy that I do too, because it makes me be better in my life or what I'm trying to do or what I'm trying to pursue, what I'm trying to learn, anything like that. All right, moving on to the rest of the video. We have Valor and Villainy, Lludwick's Labyrinth. This is the sequel to it. Sadly, I have the original game and have not played it. It's one of the few ones I haven't. I need to. I need to do that. I need to do I don't have enough time unless somebody pays me $1 million to do it, right? If you skip the sponsorship, then you won't get that joke, but I thought it was funny. No, seriously though, there's 850 people following this, so it seems well regarded enough to generate more buzz. So that's kind of cool. It's definitely an interesting look they have there. I'd be interested to learn more, of course, because I did think the first one looked good. Definitely will need to play a session of it before I pack it though. So we'll see if that happens. All right, another shirt, another day, but I really wanted to add this to the video because I can't believe I didn't show this before. I've been covering this actually since like their very first teaser. It's about time it came out. We finally learned more about it. This is Scarface 1920. It looks great, honestly. I think it looks wonderful. One thing I will say is I'm a little biased towards this. I love the movie The Untouchables. I watch it multiple times a year, every single year. Great movie, classic movie. Definitely highly recommended. So anytime I see Elliot Ness, I get a little excited, and Al Capone and all that. Just that whole situation. I don't even drink, and I still think that's it's just a very cool concept, a very American kind of style thing. And I love the setting, right, and the year and everything like that. Just looks cool. The mini looks cool too, or the the games look. And honestly, the game looks cool too. The video actually helps show quite a bit about the game, and you can kind of see it here, but essentially you play different mob bosses and you're upgrading different things and you're playing different cards to hire different people and essentially deal with other gangs and trying to be, you know, the biggest and best, but then also deal with the federal agents, of course, as well, which I think is just awesome. There's newspaper stuff. There's all sorts of great things here, and it looks really nice too. Like, it looks quality. The price seems good too. The price, by the way, $120. That's very common. And then, of course, you just get it $166, and you get pretty much everything you'd want. All stretch goals, wooden crates for the goods, the components. You get little wooden crates for it. I don't like that kind of stuff because it really doesn't break down, takes up space, but whatever. Plastic business markers, card sleeves. I mean, all sorts of neat stuff. The many styles look good. I kind of like the blockiness. At first, the cartooniness was kind of but actually, between that and the art, I think it's really grown on me a lot. It just seems really good. It's not really holding any punches. You can kill witnesses and do all that kind of stuff too, which I think is super awesome. I'm all about that kind of stuff. I love playing the bad guy, right? And just, you know, doing anything it takes to be, whether it's hiring a hitman or paying off a police officer, or, you know, doing all that kind of stuff. I think it's really cool. The map is probably the worst part, and I just think it looks I like the style. it's just visually, it's kind of, it's brown, if that makes sense. Otherwise, like these cards I love how the people pop up out of the background. I love how the background's faded. I just think a lot of it is really, really cool. The color usage is good. They really have a great style. Looks like a good productions value here. You do get a NS. I do love that. I think that's great. So lots of different stuff. As you saw, there were dual layer boards there. You can upgrade to some nightclubs and stuff like that, which is awesome. You get a whole bunch of components. It just looks like good fun. And they're making a solo mode too. If I'm going to play solo mode, the only solo mode I've ever even wanted to play and thus enjoyed was for Solomon Kane, mainly because I need a story. I'm not just trying to like beat a puzzle. That's not really why I play games. So, but I know for a lot of people that's a big deal. So I always want to mention that. And like you said, here's the add-on. There's some other stuff. There's some Paperboy stuff, and not the video game, sadly. But you get these wooden crates. You get these plastic markers, which is awesome, and the card sleeves. There's also an art book and a poster and just stuff like that if you really want to. But it seems like a straightforward campaign, which is nice. They're having some really great unlocks between more content and just more cool stuff. In other words, minis and actual gameplay. So it's nice to get both of those and kind of upgrade things. It just very well done campaign. It looks like it was worth the wait. So yeah, obviously link down below to this. I think that looks actually pretty darn cool. Might get it myself. We'll see. Money's a little tight, just, with regards to what I've been talking about with Patreon and self-funding and all that. So I need to really focus on that and make sure that I have enough to get what I need. But if nothing else, I'll put $1 in and make that decision later on, maybe after all the fuss is over here locally with the move and everything. Okay, moving on. A Noble War. So this is actually now, like, there's a page you can click on, you can follow. These are by the people who did Sea of Legend. And I don't know if there's an app. If there is, I do want to caution you. They delivered Sea of Legend where you couldn't even play it because the app wasn't ready yet. So it was just a glorified paperweight with a lot of expensive components that you paid for. So they fixed that, but I still want to just make sure that you guys, I want you guys to be aware of it. You guys obviously know I don't really care for app required games, but one of the problems is if there's an issue with there, your game's unplayable, and they kind of proved that. So I just want to make sure that you guys go in knowing, hey, I might have issues like this where I might want to play the game and the game is unplayable. That is definitely a thing that happens. If there was a board game that could randomly combust on fire and not be playable for a while, I would tell you about that too. It's not just the app, it's just inherently because of the thing. So I love the style. I do love the style. I'll be cautious about it just because of those kind of issues. If there is, I believe they said there was an app. I think he kind of always does that, but I don't see an app in the picture and I don't see it mentioned here. So now I'm kind of doubting maybe there was something that changed and I need to look at that. I'm not sure. So, but either way, looks kind of interesting. Noble War. And an Aeon Trespass Odyssey update. I wanted to talk a few things about this. First of all, the artwork is amazing. They seem to be doing a lot of work. They're investing in doing smart, they're actually doing stuff, when it comes to like prototyping and making changes. And there aren't very many companies that are willing to actually show you that they're doing stuff. A lot of times they're just like, oh yeah, we're doing stuff. And you don't see that, there's not a lot of stuff. It looks like a lot of stuff here that they're kind of working on. One thing I thought that looked super cool is look at the board here. I don't recognize that board at all. Did I miss something? Is there a flip side of the board? I dig that. That's just how dark it is. I like the starkness of it. It looks super cool. Anyway, as you can see, they're doing a ton of stuff from token design to the Triskelion to, as you can see, obviously like actively changing cards and doing stuff like that. The art style I think is awesome these days. Another Chimera mini. It looks it's a little busy for my taste. I like their more straightforward stuff. They are asking about sun dropping or shading, so let them know what you think about that. From what I can tell from most of the comments, most people would love to spend more money on this game and get it sun drop. So there is that. They're showing some awesome. Look at that. It's the fantastical world that this inhabits is all the way up my sleeve and then some in a very weird way, but super cool there. Showing all the mountain stuff, a lot of real stuff, which is great. But I wanted to show you another Kingdoms Forlorn sneak peek. because I'm all about the sneak peeks. And honestly, I think, so this is kind of interesting. This is Kara, Knight of the Wild, and they're not showing a whole lot here, but what I will say is, from somebody who focuses a lot on miniatures and the kind of the meta around it, this is one of the most competent minis I have seen, and I guess I'll explain a little bit. It's not super stand out, it's not super flashy or anything like that, and like the as with most of the Kingdoms Forlorn, it's a little weird, so you got like these big old like kind of feather stuff, but it's not like a fluff of feathers, it's like very specific feather fans. And here's what makes it interesting for me, especially as a painter, is the between just the variety of textures you have here. So you have like the base, right? And then you obviously have her armor and then the feathers, but then you also have this fur cloak, and then you have the segmented shield, and then the curly hair. And you don't see curly hair a lot because it's a little bit harder to do. A lot of times you'll see the flat hair for that reason, to really sell it. And as you can see, it's more wavy here than curly here, which I would be fine with seeing it more curly as well. But either way, I like it. It's not the kind of standard straight you tend to see. You see a lot of this kind of hair with fancier resin minis often, or just larger scale minis. So either way, a very well done mini. And also just the actual sculpt, I think, is very smart. So she starts way back here, goes forward, especially with the knee kind of lowering the center of gravity a little bit, but then she turns and then goes back. So she almost does like an S, which I think is cool. So she comes down from here and then over here and then down here and then over here again and then the base. And it's just a very interesting sculpt in that. And any time I see a sculpt and I can talk this long about it, I feel it's probably pretty well done. They're definitely more and more on their A game from their original sculpts, even for and Trespass Odyssey to Kingdoms Forlorn. I'm seeing a lot of impressive stuff out of them. I think this was very well done. There's not a whole lot of like weird negative space or anything like that because the cloak's flowing out of here. It's just, again, just really, really well done. I feel it's quite nice. And most minis aren't looking backwards. A lot of them will maybe even look to the side, most of them forward, but to actually be looking back and do it, very unique. Some gameplay mechanics that you struggle with that if you have a facing thing. I'm assuming there's probably not a facing thing because that gets kind of weird. It's like, is it where she's looking or where she's turned, or is it where her legs are turned or her torso's turned? Because those are different because she's, anyway, really, really cool. Really dig it. So that's awesome. Good to see. It reminds me a lot of Solomon Kane, where it's going to be a long tooth game before we get it all, but it'll be worth the wait. That's my hope anyway. It looks like Aeon Trespass Odyssey is turning out to just be way up there with professional expectations there, which I like. And Kingdoms Forlorn is just looking like it's very smartly done. So excited to see more about the gameplay on that. But so far I like what I see. So, all right, that's it. That's all I wanted to share. Next up, back on GameFound, we have Skyrim, the board game, and they have an update. I'm going to go ahead and summarize this a little bit. 1 to 4 players, you're going on these different quests. You can play as a Khajiit, Nord, or High Elf, is the likes here. And you're going on your own quests and dealing them and making decisions. There are 2 campaigns of 3 sessions each that you kind of go through, or 3 chapters as they call it. But the decisions you make all change and how you do things all change. So they say there's hundreds of hours of game content here that you could do because you just make different choices and go down different paths, and the map changes as trolls fight or come down and destroy things and dragons and whatnot. So that's all kind of interesting, very vague, high level. They'll give us more info apparently soon. One of the few things there's actually a couple things that are nice. So first of all, if you have a call to arms, I would point to it here, but it's not here right now. If you have their tabletop game, it's the same scale, and you can actually use the board game minis in the tabletop and the tabletop minis in the board game. Super awesome. That's a very smart, cross-promotional with your own product thing. That's almost a no-brainer, but that doesn't mean you had to do it. I'm glad they did. That's awesome. So if you already have your Call to Arms minis painted, you will have a full painted set. You can play this game. That's awesome. I think it's great. So that's cool. Additionally, they have most of it in either has been approved or is going to be approved. And they're actually, by the time they launch it, they're going to go ahead and already have their miniatures tooled or starting to be tooled. So starting the tooling process, that's normally an iterative thing. Very cool. Very cool that so much is already signed off on it. They'll be sending out to reviewers, doing all that. They'll have a full playable tabletop simulator demo that will be there at launch so that you'll be able to try the game out yourself. they seem to be doing everything right. Oh, and it'll be in English. They're going to try and translate other things. It'll be after English. That's about it. There you go. Now I just saved you from reading this, though. Feel free to as well. Of course, there are links to everything down below. Next up, we have Lords of Ragnarok. This is a spiritual successor to Lords of Hellas. And it's just going to be bigger and better by the sounds of it. I always wanted to get into Lord of Hellas. I heard good things. I love dudes on a map style games. I liked the idea of building, it's like a Civ kind of thing where you're building the monument. I like that concept. But the minis were trash. It was kind of a crappy, tiny scale, and just never pulled the trigger. This might cause me to actually do it. Just because I know they've improved a lot since. And I'll be talking about the miniatures here in a moment, but right now I'm focusing on the game itself. It seems pretty good. They're adding a little bit of differences to it. Obviously, you have these runes that you can upgrade your units and promote them and do stuff like that. But you'll still be, building your stuff up. Multiple win conditions, all that kind of stuff will make it, I think, pretty interesting there. And of course, they have beautiful artwork and really, really pretty renders. This is super cool, by the way. One thing I do want to always caution is that, I'll get back to it. One thing I do want to always caution is that they do use E-Star, which is my least favorite manufacturing group for miniatures, bar none. They've improved a lot, but they still always have some kind of failure. For instance, let's go ahead and look at this guy here that they've been showing off. And you're like, oh, wow, that's a great render. But the problem is that Awakened Realms and Ludus Magnus Studio are the two companies I point to as a negative to where they make their renders without regard typically to what their chosen manufacturer actually does. I've shown off the mounted heroes for Tainted Grail and how they changed the mouth and of the bear thing, and the rock was a mess and all that. Normally between a render and the final production mini, you can typically expect anywhere from 5% detail loss to this is suddenly almost a different sculpt, 16+%, 20% loss. And they have in one game anything from that 4% where it's pretty close to, oh my God, what happened? Whether it's the staff from the chick with Tainted Grail and how melty that was to the soldier that they kept printing out without it. The manufacturer is not good. It's not necessarily Awakened Realms. I think they could sculpt with their manufacturer in mind, but it's really their manufacturer that I think is an issue. So I see a few things I'm going to be tracking here, and I just want you to kind of go in with the same kind of eye for what to look out for. So for instance, this is how E-Star works. This right one is E-Star. This other one is another company. I'm not going to mention the name right now, but this is just an example that I like to point out. You'll see how the glove here is separate, and here they've kind of Stargate melted it into the mini. They bring everything in to make it more simple, more easy, less tooling. You see here how the tapestry kind of sash stuff or whatever points out here, and how they just squished it back in there. They completely lost that detail here. The same with the dreadlocks back here have been tucked in. Now this kind of stuff, if you just saw the E-Star Mini, you might not even, I would pick up on the Stargate stuff for sure, but I wouldn't necessarily pick up on that's been flattened, except that I've seen it not. Right. So I think a lot of times E-Star minis can look good because you have no other comparison. You don't see what the other company could have done, how good it could have been. Right. So if you cover up this one and you just see this, you're like, hey, that looks like a pretty good mini. It's got sand and it's got detail here and all that. And it's a darker gray, so it looks pretty crisp too and stuff like that. And then when you see here and you see the difference that a single weapon can even hold, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is clearly a better mini. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is the mini I'd pick every single time. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm looking for, right? I'm kind of looking for how this render will end up when E-Star has it, right? And so, stuff like a tiny crinkle in where he's holding the shield, or the very faint detail inside of the shield, the inner part of the shield, or some small tubing and stuff on the underside here. I can see that going away, just like this went away, right? It's little tiny details, whether it goes away or it's super soft. But look, I don't expect it to be as crisp as a render regardless. But again, sometimes it only drops 4%. It just depends on the render and the manufacturer and how much they're aligning in communication. To go over, there's also like the shoulder pad that's raised above. And again, they like to flatten those things down. So I would expect that to actually be a little bit flatter on the Mini. So when you look at this Mini and you see these big old shoulder pad here, again, on the final Mini, expect that to be flattened down. I'm just sharing kind of how I look at things, and maybe you care, maybe you don't. The loops and how separate they are. Again, it's just like those swords, right? It's just like this sword here, perhaps, right? Where I'm expecting that to not look like it's above, but more melted into it, like it's one thing, right? Especially with the hollowness there, right? I don't expect a lot of hollowness around here. And speaking of that, same with this trailer, especially this right here I'm sure will be filled in, and this coming out will be pulled back down into the rock. This is what Easter has always done. It's what I see constantly with them. So just as an FYI, when you're looking at pretty renders, always be on the lookout for practicality, especially if you know the manufacturer, if you know the company and kind of what they tend to do. You can see something like this and be like, that's a freaking cool render. I need to set my expectations accordingly for how the Mini will actually look. Okay, so moving on from that, let's go ahead and talk about something else. This is Pal. Now, I didn't share this campaign with you because it's more of a talking point. It's not a minis thing. Essentially what they're doing is they have these kind of acrylic standee cards and standee tokens that they're upgrading various games in. And you know, it's like, it's not official, right? So it's kind of their own art, but it's pretty close. Like here's Small World, and obviously that's fairly close to the Amazon, right? It's fairly close to the skeleton, but it's not, right? It's their own kind of thing that they're doing there. So with that in mind, right? And I think they look quite nice. They even have like a photosynthesis, so they got like the big trees and stuff, but that look freaking sweet with an actual light. That'd be sweet. Anyway. Okay, so they had an update here called Information of Gloomhaven, because they were offering Gloomhaven, and then the Cellophore Fair game, whatever games, contacted them and essentially did a little cease and desist, kind of like, hey, take that off there. You know, that's our stuff. They essentially claimed it's too close to the art because mostly what you can do is attack like art or music or something like that, because those are very copyrightable and IP driven things where you're like, no, it's too close or whatever. It's why companies can go after fan art on like ArtStation, stuff like that. If you draw a picture of a Balrog, I know a guy who did this, I don't know if he's watching this video or not, but you might get a letter saying, hey, take that down. Even though it's just fan art, because they control it and you can't draw that and publish it. Kind of ridiculous, but whatever. Okay, so with that in mind, essentially they're trying to work out a deal, but none of the other companies really reached out and did this. And I think in general, this is just kind of my stance on here. I think it's a stupid decision on their part. And here's why. Because it's only targeting customers of Gloomhaven. In other words, people, your customers, and it's adding value, even more value to them, or they wouldn't have been customers of this people, right? So anytime you go there and you're saying, actually, I don't want those customers to have that value, and I'm going to provide nothing else to replace that with, is kind of bad. I don't see the benefit of that. That did not help any Gloomhaven, customers at all, right? There's no benefit to us. It's not like, oh, I'm so benefiting from them taking that away. That's purely for the company, right? And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of frustrating. It reminds me a lot of, though obviously this is nothing like that, because at the end of the day, there's also like third-party storage solutions and stuff like that. It's like, well, do you go after them because they're making a different thing than your game trays that you designed? Because at the end of the day, those storage solution companies are advertising with Gloomhaven and they're making money because of Gloomhaven. But they didn't do the art, and so you can't, for whatever reason, art and music are like super latched on. Nintendo does this stupid crap too, where they're like, you can't stream our game unless you pay us money. It just hurts the community, and I think it's really unfortunate. The aftermarket community for board games is something that should be flourishing and prosperous and multifaceted and all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm fine with Cellophore Game contacting them, right? And I'm fine with them even saying like, hey, we'd like to make this official. In other words, you could say like, hey, we'll throw our weight behind it. We'll say, we'll advertise your crap. You give us a little bit of a cut. I guarantee they would have gone for that, these E-Raptor guys. Because you know how much of a huge thing that'd be if the next Frosthaven update said, oh, hey, by the way, look at what they're doing here. That's awesome. We're supporting them in that. And you even get a little bit of money in the kickback. I'm okay with that. I think both companies could benefit, and maybe it'll end up that way. But it doesn't sound like it because they took it down until then. So it's just kind of frustrating that somebody was providing value to the customers of Silifor Game, and Silifor Game said, actually, I don't want them to have that benefit just because they want to protect their art, I guess. I don't know. I think it's dumb. But you guys knew that ahead of. Anytime the customer gets shafted from something, I think it's dumb, right? I'm all about us, not them. I don't care about Silifor Games. I care about you and me. Pointed wrong when I said that, but you know what I meant. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about Harakiri. Harakiri. I need to learn how to say that better because I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. This is a cool freaking mini, is it not? It is. It's a very cool. Well, it's not a mini at all. It's art. It's some cool art. It'd be great if he was a mini. Oh my gosh, he is. Okay, so this is definitely a big baddie. This is not somebody you want to fight, and mainly because he's huge. Yes, he is, like 70, 80 millimeters? I don't know. It's big, right? He's definitely large. So, yeah. When he's holding demon heads that are, first of all, snarling while being decapitated, and also the size of your torso, might want to watch out. So, I will be doing a details video on Harakiri. I got some information. I got some stuff I'm going to talk to you guys about that they sent my way. So that'll be coming soon. Again, want to see that, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss it because YouTube won't let you know otherwise. But no, seriously, it's looking cool. It's looking cool. And I think you're going to like some of the components. I'm going to show some of the game mechanics I'm going to talk about. Yeah, this is looking like a good one, guys. In my opinion, it's looking good. So I'm excited for it. The sculpt design, by the way, on this, I think is just great. I love the horn on one side and then the kind of like more textured, veiny portion towards the head. But go back to the art, you can kind of see that actually in the art as well. But just a very well designed mini too. It's not, he's leaning over and then these are farther down and then this is coming up, and just like from the looks of it, it's even a little bit more tense muscle wise because he's holding those heads up as he should be. Just all around, I think looking good. So that's awesome. One more thing. Conan. It's done. It's produced. Production 100% complete, ready to ship. Obviously, shipping is crazy right now, both in getting a ship and paying for a ship, right? So they're working on getting on a ship. That's the hard part. And then, of course, figuring out, okay, how do we pay them? Now, they are actually being kind enough to say they will not charge us anything. Yes, it's going to cost more, but they will not be charging us. As they say, just as you were there for us during the post BTM or Beyond the Monolith Kickstarter, it's only fair that we return the favor. So in other words, they're saying, we hit a snag, we made a goof, you guys told us, hey, this isn't what we want, this is like, you're in the weeds here, come back. They came back, we showed up, and they're saying, all right then, here, we're gonna pay that back and not charge you guys. So that's awesome. That's really good to hear. Now when it gets on a boat, we'll find out, right? They said right now it has to go through Guangdong, which is a fabulous name. It's going through its own COVID thing right now again, so who knows? But either way, you won't be paying for it, so that's good. All right, guys, that is it. That is my update. I hope you enjoyed it. That was a lot to go over. I've been holding some stuff in my back pocket, up my sleeves for you guys, that I finally figured, you know what? Let's just let it all out. Let's just lay it out on the table. So there's a ton here to go over. If you have any questions, comments down below, of course. If you're just ready to leave, let me know if this video was helpful for you on the way out. I greatly appreciate it. Go ahead and click that like button if you did enjoy the video, so I know to keep spending all these hours at like 1 a.m. to do this for you guys, because I get a lot of satisfaction out of it. So I'm motivated to do it. It's just when I get to it, it's a little late. But anyway, that's it. That's all I had. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend if you're watching this day I post it. And I'll talk to you guys again very soon with some really, really cool unboxings. I got a Mythic Games game in that I need to show you guys, and a few other odds and ends that I think you'll be interested in seeing. And of course, more news and reviews as well. All right, guys, take care. Bye.